In this video, we're going to talk about the difference between displacement and total distance traveled. Let's say you have a particle that is moving along the x-axis. So it's moving right and left. And let's say that when t equals 0, the particle is at 2. And then when t equals, let's say, 1, after 1 second, the particle is at 4. So you went right. And then, let's say when t equals 2, the particle is at, let's say, 0. So now, the displacement is the position of the particle now is at 0 after 2 seconds. It was originally at 2, but after 2 seconds, the particle will be at 0. So you could say that displacement is final minus initial. So in this case, what was the final position during those 2 seconds? Is 0. Minus what was the initial? At t equals 0, it was 2. So displacement is negative 2. If the displacement is negative, that means the particle will end up left side of the original. If the displacement is positive, the position of the particle will be on the right side of the original. Now, what about the total distance this particle traveled during those 2 seconds? It's not negative 2. You have to add up. It traveled from 0 to 1 second, distance of 2. And then it traveled 1, 2, 3, 4 from t equals 1 to 2. So therefore, the total distance the particle traveled is 6. And we're going to look at more examples. Let's take a look at this velocity graph. So derivative of s with respect to time, ds over dt is v of t, which is equal to t squared minus 8 over quantity t plus 1 squared. And the particle is moving along the s-axis horizontally from 0 to 5 seconds. And when you graph this velocity graph, notice this is a velocity graph. And from 0 to 1.25, this is approximately 1.25. Notice the velocity is below the x-axis, which means that the particle will move to the left from 0 to 1.25 seconds. And what happens after 1.25 seconds to 5 seconds? Since the velocity is above the x-axis, which means positive, the particle will go to the right. So remember, if the velocity is negative, if the particle is moving along the horizontal, if the velocity is negative, it will move to the left. If the velocity is positive, it will go to the right. If they're talking about vertical axes, if the velocity is positive, particle is going to move up, and then particle is going to go down if the velocity is negative. Now, let's say they give us more information. Let's say they said that when t equals 0, the particle is at 9, which is the initial position. And they want us to find what will be a particle's position after when t equals 1 second. Remember, displacement is final minus initial. we have initial, that is 9. And we need to find final position when t equals 1. So how do we find the displacement? Well, the displacement is, remember, the particle will be moving left from 0 to approximately 1.25, and then it's going to move to the right from 1.25 to 5 seconds. So when t equals 1, the displacement will be the integral. Integral from 0 to 1 of the velocity, which is t squared minus 8 quantity t plus 1 squared dt equals final minus 9. So in order to find the final position, what you got to do is, you could use your calculator to simplify this, evaluate this, and then you add 9. So your final position will be approximately, it will be 16 over 3. What about our position when t equals 5? So again, displacement, which will be 0 to 5 of the velocity. That should equal to final minus initial. In this case, it will be 9. So what is our final position of the particle when t equals 5? Well, now you got to find the integral of the velocity from 0 to 5, and then you have to add 9. So you end up getting 35 plus 9, which is 44. So after 9 seconds, particle will end up at 44. Now, what if they ask you to find the total distance that particle traveled from 0 to 5 seconds? Now remember, this particle it could move to the left, it moves to the left, and then it moves to the right. So not only we have to count for the distance you move to the right, we also have to count the distance that you move to the left. So in order to find the total distance that this particle traveled from 0 to 5, you have to find the integral of 0 to 5 of the velocity, but now we have to find the absolute value of the velocity, because we have to count the distance that it traveled to the left side. So again, using your calculator, you can evaluate this, and this will be approximately 42.59.